Hello everybody and welcome to our walkthrough of the Dragonkin Laboratory, the second of 3 elite dungeons. This one is really nice, it's probably the easiest of the 3 and has some pretty sweet rewards, particularly the Greater Barge Codex. I'm not going to go too much into the details of gearing here, but I would recommend learning this dungeon with either mage or range. So bring the best gear you've got of that style. And you also want lots of prayer potions, super anti-fire of course, a shield switch can be helpful though it's not necessary, and of course bring plenty of food. Then when you're ready, head to the entrance. You can either get there using the grouping system or by teleporting from the chests on any of the other elite dungeons, and then head in. The first mobs we've got to deal with are these laboratory slimes, which you can see here. And what you want to be aiming for here is to group them up, preferably in one corner, and then just AoE them down. So if you're using range, using Chin Chompers, or if you're using mage, then just detonate, Dragon Breath, Chain, all the AoE abilities. If you're doing it in a duo or trio, then it's quite nice if one person goes over to the far side to grab that group of slimes and brings them over so you can bunch them all up in the corner. They do hit pretty hard, so pray melee and just watch your health if you need to. And once you've cleared them to the point the barrier is down, you can, if you wish, now leave, and that'll reset and you can come in and there won't be any slimes there, or just head down into the next section. Here we get our first dragons of the laboratory, so make sure you've taken some anti-fire if you hadn't already done so, and you want to be staying over on the west side like we're doing here, to avoid drawing any aggro from the spiders that are in that room over there. Once you've cleared through the first barrier, just go and clear through the 4 dragons who are in the next bit. You can see we're soul splitting here, but you don't need to if you haven't got it. Just pray mage and eat up as you start getting low. Yeah, do just watch your health during this bit. And then the next bit we're on to has some magma golems. Much like the slimes, we want to group them up in one corner so we can use AoE abilities. And again, pray melee if you need to and just watch your health during this section. And you should be able to clear through them without too much trouble. Now the next section is a little bit messy, there's a lot of stuff going on. So if you want to, you can take it slowly, just group the slimes up over here at the edge of the bridge and clear through them before heading further in. Or if you want to do it slightly quicker, you can just head all the way across to the far side and start off with the dragon. The other creatures here, of course, are the books, which you don't need to kill, but just to be aware that they will aggro to you if you get too close and can be a bit of a pain to deal with. They will be sapping your health. They can hit kind of hard. You want to tank this celestial dragon from over in the corner, just to limit the amount of other stuff that can get to you. And when it does its special like this, you just want to hit it with a stun to stop it healing up. Once you've cleared that through, the barrier will go down, and you can head into the next section, where you have 3 celestial dragons. The one at the door should hopefully be blocking any leftover slimes or books of the like that you haven't cleared yet, so just leave that one for last and clear the other 2 first, again stunning them as and when they spec. Once again, we're soul splitting here, which if you're doing reasonable damage will allow you to get back a lot of the health that these guys are going to be taking from you. But again, if you don't want to use that, you can just pray mage and eat some food. That's also fine. Next bit's pretty straightforward. We're just going to clear through a few more celestial dragons. In each of the 2 next sections, you only actually need to clear the first one. You can leave the other one and it will block some of the mobs. And then once you've cleared through these and the next section, the barrier to Astellarn will be down. And if you want to, you can teleport out and restock at that point, or if you're still pretty high on supplies, you can just head straight in. Now the first boss of this elite dungeon, Astellarn, is an interesting one. It can do a lot of damage, so can kill you pretty quickly if you're not paying attention, but as long as you deal with the mechanics and get your positioning right, it's actually a pretty easy and pretty quick fight. So the easiest way to do it is to start off over on the side of the arena where we're going to be here. You want to stay next to each other and just start off by hitting Astellarn with some big thresholds or whatever damage you've got, because pretty soon we're going to be unable to deal significant amounts of damage to her for a while. She's about to spawn a pulsar, which will hit pretty hard, and so we just want to clear that when it appears. Ideally save a little bit of adrenaline for it, which I'm actually not doing here. You just want a bit of adrenaline to clear the pulsar out quickly. See, it's going to appear now, and once this is down, we're not going to be doing significant damage to Astellarn with our hits, so we can clear the pulsar and then focus on building up adrenaline ready for later on when we're going to be wanting to do some big damage. Once you've cleared the pulsar, one of you will be chosen as a wormhole anchor point. You see this is me. I'm just going to run forwards and I'm going to drop the wormhole right under Astellarn's nose here. See the black hole appears on the floor. Once you've dropped it, just run back to where you were standing. Just be aware that if you do stand in it, you will take tick damage, so you want to get out of it quickly. Once the wormhole spawns, or at least shortly after it, a couple of neutron stars will appear. If you get the positioning right, just having the wormhole up here and standing behind it, then the neutron star should spawn sort of in or right next to the wormhole, and it will immediately stabilise. If it doesn't do that, then just run to the other side of the wormhole so the neutron star gets drawn into it. Once the wormhole is stabilised, we can do normal, indeed boosted damage to Astellarn again, so this is where you want to use up all the adrenaline you've been saving. You can either drop a Death Swiftness or Sunshine, or you can just use big thresholds, and you should be able to clear through the rest of Astellarn's health pretty quickly. The only other mechanic to watch out for is the rain, which you see falling in one of the 4 quadrants here. Just make sure you're not standing in it. You can move from side to side a little bit to avoid it. If you haven't got the damage to clear through Astellarn in one cycle, then the mechanics will repeat again. So she'll spawn a pulsar, and then the wormhole, then the neutron stars. Just continue dealing with them in exactly the same way each time, and then dealing big damage once the wormhole has stabilised, and you should get through it after a few cycles. Anyway, once she's down, going to go clear through a couple of celestials here, and then this bit, if you can, you want to surge straight to the side to avoid drawing the aggro of the lava spiders, or if you're not confident in doing that, then you can just stay by the entrance and take some time clearing through them before you head further in. Then there'll be a couple of strike worms by the barrier, just want to clear through them. Do watch out for the mini-bosses in this section. They can be a bit of a pain if they do aggro to you. You can usually avoid them if you walk around them. We just accidentally drew the Dragon Wolf out here, so we're going to clear through it before it does too much damage to it. And then we're up into the next section, which is a fairly long one, where you just fight successive black dragons and lava strike worms. Again, if you've drawn the spiders aggro, then they will be following you throughout until they get lost a little bit further up, so do clear through them if you're worried about it, but you don't necessarily need to. Do of course refresh your anti-fire for these dragons if you haven't already done so, because they will be hitting you pretty hard if you haven't got dragonfire protection. But otherwise this section is pretty straightforward. Just make your way up and through the ruins, clearing out the dragons and the strike worms as you go. In this section here you can ignore the first 2 strike worms, you only need the 4 that are clustered around the barrier here. So surge past the first 2, then go and clear the rest of them. And then after a few more dragons we will be on to the second boss, which is Verak Lith. Now Verak Lith can be quite a long fight, particularly early on when you're first learning, and the mechanics can be pretty punishing if you screw them up, so don't be discouraged if this does take a little bit of practice. Just watch your health, try and keep it high, and deal with the mechanics as they come, and you should be okay. Again, you can tally out and restock at this point if you want more supplies before heading in. Now, Verak Lith is mostly going to be hitting with Mage, so you want to be praying Mage. Just be aware that if he does come into melee distance with you, he can hit you with melee, so do be careful of that. Try and either stay away from him, or be ready to flick melee if he is in melee distance with you. The first mechanic you want to be aware of is the spires. You'll see in a little bit here we get a message about the earth shaking underneath our feet, and then black spires will appear, 1 for each of us in the arena, which will hit you for a bit of melee damage. You can either switch to your melee prayer to reduce damage from that, or if you did bring a shield switch with you, then this can be a good opportunity to switch to a shield and use resonance to get a little bit of a heal from that spire attack. Once the spires have spawned, you do need to kill them, because you won't be able to deal any damage to Verak Lith until they are all dead. So clear your spire out, and then do go and help your friends with theirs if you need to. You ideally want to coordinate so you're using kind of similar levels of thresholds, just so you're bringing them down at about the same time. You know, it's not the biggest issue if you don't. You can just help each other clear yours out, and then once the spires are down, back onto Verak Lith. The next mechanic is the energies, which is the easiest one to screw up, and which you probably will get wrong a few times when you are first learning this boss. You'll see a message about some energy ricocheting off you and bouncing high into the air, and when you see that, there'll also be, you'll see a ball of energy descending towards the ground and some flashing arrows underneath it. You want to go and stand in the middle of those flashing arrows and wait till the energy has landed and you get a message about having absorbed it. I actually took Agile's here by accident, but never mind. Once you've absorbed the energy, go and deposit it in some eggs. The key thing here is it needs to be eggs of a different type to the energy you absorbed. And the easiest way to do this is just to drop it in eggs of a different colour. So if you absorbed some blue energy, then go and deposit it in the green eggs. If you absorbed green energy, go and deposit it in one of the sets of blue eggs. And yeah, just be aware that if you do either fail to catch the energy initially, or then fail to deposit it in the eggs once you've done so, you will take a fair amount of damage, so be prepared for that. Eat up if you need to. Now those two mechanics are going to continue cycling throughout the fight, get some spires and some eggs, so just continue dealing with them exactly the same way each time. The other mechanics you've got to be aware of: first of all, Black Dragon Dive Bomb. If you get a message about a dragon dive bombing you, then just surge or run out of the way of it. A second, Flame Spiral, as you see Verak has just done it there to Agile. He'll say, let the flames melt the flesh from your bones, and then there'll be a patch of fire which fairly quickly turns into these flame spirals. You just want to get really far away from them. You absolutely do not want to risk coming into contact with them, because they will do really heavy damage. So just run over to the other side and continue attacking Verak from there. And once you've been through a few cycles of all these mechanics, you will eventually DPS him down, and you'll be on to the final section of the Elite Dungeon. Now this section is essentially a load of gemstone dragons, which are pretty straightforward to deal with. The only thing you've got to be aware of is their spec, which looks like a line of spikes that is moving along the ground towards you, and then when it hits, you'll see it explodes into a big pile of spikes. And very simply, if you see that coming towards you, you want to move or surge out of the way. You can see I accidentally got clipped by one there, but I dodged the other one. And all the dragons in this section will do that to you, so do just watch out for that. The spec will either deal some damage to you, or can also reduce your anti-fire protection from these Dragonstone dragons, which is a bit of a pain, so do just try and dodge it. You don't need to kill all the dragons. You can see we're ignoring a couple of them here. But again, if you're worried about taking too much damage, you can take this section a little bit slower. Just clear through the dragons as you encounter them, rather than trying to skip them, and then you just don't have to worry about taking lots of damage from several dragons at the same time. This, once you clear through all of them, got these two here, and then the final two outside, you'll be into the final fight of the Elite Dungeon, the Blackstone Dragon, who of course has the chance of dropping the Greater Barge Codex. Once again, this is a good point to tele out and restock for supplies if you need to before heading in. Once this barrier is down, you'll just be able to teleport to the chest and come back to that once you've restocked. Now, the Blackstone Dragon will primarily attack with Mage, so you want to be camping that on the whole. You can flex Soul Split if you like, and there will occasionally be range and melee attacks, so do watch out for that. Particularly if she's coming close to you, her melee attacks can hit pretty hard, so either run away or switch to melee prey as you need it. The first special she's going to do is exactly like that of the Gemstone Dragons. She's just going to send some spikes towards us along the ground, and exactly like we've been doing before, you just want to move out of the way of those to make sure they don't hit you. They do hit pretty hard if they do connect, so you just make sure you're watching out for that. Otherwise, the first section is pretty straightforward, so just DPS her down. When she hits 500k health, as you can see here, she will spawn 4 black hands in the 4 corners of kind of this little symbol in the middle. Now, the black hands will do 1 magic attack, as you've just seen hit me there, and then after that they'll send a line of small hands along the ground towards you, very much like the ones you face in the ED1. So you either want to Pray Mage or Resonance the magic hit, and then just move to the side to be out of the way of the line of hands that is coming. When you're not getting hit by the mage attack, you can Soul Split if you like, just to get a little bit of health back on these hands. It's a very nice way of just not having to use too many supplies this section. And otherwise, that's pretty much all you've got to worry about. Just deal with those attacks as they come, and DPS the 4 black hands down. Again, this is kind of nice in a 2 or a 3. You can just take a couple each, go and help your friends if they need it. And just continue DPSing those down, and then we'll be into the next stage. Now, the Blackstone Dragon can do her Spike special from Phase 1 during this section, but she will also have another one, which is the Flame Spiral, which you're going to see soon, where a kind of line of blue-white flames will appear around her and will slowly spiral in towards the middle. The easiest way to deal with this is to run in and stand quite close to her while the spiral goes around the outside, and then when it starts coming closer in, either run or escape out of the way so that you're standing outside of it. She won't be attacking you during that phase, so you can Soul Split to get some health back, and then just switch back to Mage, or again flick between Mage and Range once that attack is done. Once you get her down to about 250k, as you can see here, she'll go into the next phase, which has her fly phase. And this can be a bit of a mess, particularly with 2 or 3 people. She's just going to fly repeatedly around the arena, and every time she lands, she will send a line of fire out towards you. The easiest way to deal with this is just to group up with your partner and run around together, and do just watch out for the lines of fire and surge away from them if you need to, or just run past them. Particularly be careful if she lands on top of you, because that fire is going to be coming very, very close to you, and just react quickly. Once she's down, she'll go immediately into a flame spiral, which again, as you see here, can be pretty chaotic with the leftover fire from the fly phase and the spiral. So if you're worried about this, you can just run really far away, stay on the other side of the arena until the fire's calmed down a bit and she's finished this, and then you can come back in and DPS her. Or if you're being careful, then you can kind of stand and just make sure you watch where you're standing, don't get hit by any of the flame spirals, and you can DPS her through that section. And then the final section of the fight, she will continue doing more spike attacks, more flame spirals, and her usual auto attacks, and you just DPS through her, and the fight is finished. You have completed the Dragonkin laboratory, and hopefully you got a doubled greater barge codex. Anyway, that is the fight. I hope you enjoyed that little walkthrough. Thank you very much for watching.